Hello, everybody. It is Professor Rocco, ya boy, here, coming at you again with another Age of Sigmar 101 episode, number 6 here. And what we're going to be talking about today is how to pick a good sub-faction for your army and your lists and all your building. People want to know more about it, so here we are. And this is really, we're going to focus on the buzzword synergy here. Like we're some high-powered businessman, like AoS coaches in his real life job. So number one here, when I think synergy, I think that we need to pick the sub faction that's either gonna like build ourselves up or cover a weakness, and that starts when we go with our command traits here. Now these are traits given to your general narratively, and the fluffy reason they have them is that's what makes them special. That's why they're the leader. They have this command trait. They're just awesome people, and this is what we give them to represent that. And these command traits can be buffs to themselves, buffs to the army, debuffs to your opponent sometimes. But that's what these command traits are. Then we get generally a command ability for being in one of the pre-made sub factions that a lot of the books have. Now, to date, only Nighthaunt currently do not have sub-factions of some kind or another. If you look at the Warhammer Weekly and other people way smarter than me, you'll find the whole detailed outlook of everything. That's not what we're here for here, but this is just the general overview. This is the 101 class. This is what we're here for. If your army does have a sub-faction with this, you get the command trait. You also get a command ability. Just like the one that's on the war scroll of your heroes, this is just, it's a buff that one of your heroes can do while you're in the sub faction that can improve your units or debuff your opponent because it's here. Nice, easy, boom, done. Third thing you get, an artifact. Now, this is the first artifact your army takes because you chose a sub faction. Sometimes these artifacts are bad, and you're like, well, if I wanted my super synergy combo, I need to take a battalion in my army because that allows me to get an extra command point, the extra artifact. But because you chose a sub faction with this, you're forced to take one. And this is the whole opportunity cost of these sub factions in these books. These are pre-made, preset things that are more for ease of play for you. And generally, most armies they're really good. You don't even look at the random make your own stuff because a lot of these newer books are just knocking it out of the park. One thing off the top of my head that doesn't fit this bill is like the Staunch Defender trait for Stormcast Eternals. If you don't choose a pre-made sub-faction, you get that. You pick your artifact, you're good. But when it comes to this, if you want that sub-faction because you love either the command trait or the ability, it's very rare you love those two things and the artifact. It's very rare you love the command ability that you get and you love the command trait and the artifact too. Sometimes you don't like all three, but it lets you do something crazy for your army, like take a certain unit as a battle line. It unlocks things. There's other shit to it. And that's the opportunity cost because you're going to hear some people say, "Oh man, for this net list, for this thing, you need to take this sub faction." You're like, "Why?" Well, it does X, Y, and Z, but it makes up for these other things. That's why some sub factions you see in tournaments don't get any play, and others are like it was Petrifex Elite for like what, a year before it got its nerf back in the day, and now it's Petrifixed. Hashtag Mr. Mephisto. Um, love that guy. So for most armies, one good buff is just worth it, and then some armies it's just gonna be like light comes down from the heavens. You're like, man, this is just perfect. Perfect. It covers all my bases. And we're gonna have an example of that. So we're gonna cut to that right now. Alright, so we're back with our example here. Now this is gonna look a little familiar for you. I'm gonna actually our friend the Humble Skink, our other video we did earlier, go check that out. Link will be somewhere in this video or description. You can even kind of see, no, you shouldn't be able to see the thumbnail I have here. But our friend the Humble Skink, this is a big one because we had this horrible war scroll, as you can see here on your screen, where we're like, why do people take 120 skinks? Well, the sub faction was the main selling point, the Fangs of Sotek sub faction. And because we choose this pre-made thing, look, we get the ability first to battle. Awesome ability. It's that 3 inches of extra movement for all the skinks in a Fangs of Sotek unit. Uh, this is also it's the skink keyword, so that's chameleon skinks. That's actually like Bastillodons have it, Stegodons have it, a lot of stuff have it instead of just regular skinks. Awesome ability. Awesome. Then we get a command ability for our heroes to use. And these are all our heroes. As you can see, it says use it at the end of the enemy charge phase. It tells us when to use it. Pick one friendly Fangs unit with a Skink War Scroll or Chameleon Skink unit, excuse me, that is wholly within 18 of a hero that is friendly to do this. And those units can shoot. And after you roll the dice on a 4-up, that unit can make a normal move to get the hell out of there. And you can't double dip on this. You can't spend 2 command points to get 2 shooting phases out of your skinks. And this is also FAQ'd even so that it very specifically is your opposing unit has to end within 3 of you. It's not just like, hey, you can just shoot for spending a command point just because it's the end of the opponent charge phase. And even then, with that FAQ errata fixing thing, this is still awesome, right? Because again, you have to make like a retreat move that involves being charged. You're like, okay, great, love it. And then you get this command trait where it says a Fangs of Sotek Saurus general must have the command trait listed instead of one from the normal table. It says old and grizzled. If this general is part of your army and on the battlefield at the start of your hero phase, roll a dice. On a 3-up, you get an extra command point. Even better CP generation. But notice that lovely bit where it says Fangs of Sotek Saurus general. So you see, this sub-faction is so good. Even if you didn't want this good command trait, you just don't take a Saurus model as your general, and then just give it one of the generic command traits. You get the best of both worlds. You could pick a really awesome generic one for like a Slon or a Skink hero, and you can avoid this. And then we get to the artifact of power there. It says a Fangs of Sotek hero must receive it because it's the first artifact. The Serpent God dagger there, it's pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, and then if you get any wounds through that aren't negated, roll a dice. On a 5-up, that model is slain, instantly killed. There's only like I think Marathi and the Mega Gargants I think only have a rule that counteracts that. So if you want to kill something automatically, 99.99999% of the models in this game will die. You want to just straight up kill a Star Drake? You put this thing on like on one of the like a really high movement hero, like one of these skink heroes going up for a bajillion, make it run and charge, nick it with the little knife, and then it just right into your dagger. Your own Archeon sword here. You don't even have to roll 2 6s, just roll 1 5-up. And that is just how awesome this sub faction is for the Fangs of Sotek, and it's why it's so good. It gives you so many tools to work with, and it gives you an out on one of the things that you might not even like. Now that's not that common. Things like off the top of my head, Caradron Overlords give you a little bit of wiggle room with that. And then there's some armies where, like the New Daughters of Cain that just recently came out. You know what? There are 6 sub factions, and there isn't a bad one. So, what does this mean for you when you're trying to pick one for yourself and you want to not do the net list, you want to not do Fangs? So, what do you want to do? Well, if we're looking at this through a competitive lens, you generally want to look at what some of these other tournament armies are doing, and sometimes it's okay to copy. If you're just playing with your friends, hell, sometimes I'll just roll a dice and play a random thing just to spice the game up and roll for a random artifact and a random command trait and move on with my life. And other times you're playing a narrative thing or maybe even a path to glory where you don't even get to pick. But at the end of the day, if you are choosing some of these things, you're looking for like, what does it bring to my army? Does it cover a glaring hole in my army to make them up and go up in the meta like some of the Stormcast ones that make shooting more popular and viable? Or even some of the ones where it's like close combat becomes better. Maybe that there's monsters in your meta, and you're like, listen, that's my army's weakness. I need these abilities to get an extra +1 to hit or wound or whatever it ends up being. Extra damage towards monsters, rerolling wounds. Take your pick. Different books have them. And this is a way to cover those weaknesses of yours in your current meta. All right, in closing, folks, that's sub-factions. It covers weaknesses, it improves strengths, it helps your army survive in your current meta to face all the problems that you end up having. Some armies have a lot, some armies have none. But you know what? At the end of the day, even if you have none and you're just picking random command traits to make up your own sub-faction, there's some pretty cool rules out there. And with that, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends about the channel. Rocco, your boy here. And from us to you, I'd love to say thank you for watching and class dismissed.